Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be talking about the 1996 adaptation of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. Now I will say first of all, this review could go two ways. I could go and say that I absolutely loved it and thoroughly enjoyed watching it, or I could say that it's not for me. Now the reason that I did quite enjoy watching it was because I read the text before I watched this. I have since then studied the text. So I know the story quite well, and there are certain things that I can look out for, and once you kind of studied a written text, studied Shakespeare's Twelfth Night itself, you kind of have a wider view of the adaptation, of more things to look out for and more angles to judge it from. And from that aspect, I did thoroughly enjoy and I thought it was quite interesting. And then there's the other one. I have to put myself in the position, what if I'd watched this having not read the text, having not studied it, gone in blind without knowledge of the plot? I don't think I would have enjoyed it. Now that is not to say it is not a good film. It's directed by Trevor Nunn and I think it's done very well. It's just I'm not the biggest fan of Shakespeare. And I think Shakespeare can be quite an acquired taste. Perhaps not things like Macbeth and Hamlet, they're quite dark and gritty and kind of appeal to the pop culture of today. But things like Twelfth Night and A Midsummer Night's Dream and A Comedy of Errors, basically Shakespeare's comedies. I think you need to admire Shakespeare's work itself before you can kind of fully enjoy the adaptation. And I'm not the biggest fan of Shakespeare. I know as a literature student I probably shouldn't confess that, but I'm not going to pretend that I love his work in its entirety when I don't. So it's kind of one of those films which, if you're studying Shakespeare and you're studying Twelfth Night, watch it. It does give an interesting angle on it. It is true to the script for the most part that I could work out. But if you have no knowledge of Twelfth Night or no knowledge of Shakespeare, I think it's going to be quite an interesting one, not necessarily the most enjoyable. The plot is quite an interesting one, I must confess, from the perspective of gender and the chaos and disorder of love. Viola is dressing up as a boy to stay in the country, and then Olivia ends up falling in love with Viola, thinking that Viola is a man. Then you've got one other person falling in love with somebody who is completely above them in terms of class level. You've got one person thinking somebody else is completely in love with them when they're not, and that leads them to do very strange things. And of course it is set on the 12th night of the year, 12 days after Christmas, which is full of chaos. 12th night, of course the title's there. So it's quite an interesting plot to study, but I must confess that I didn't really, had I not read it, I wouldn't have read so much into the film. I don't think I would have picked up on all the different kind of gender crossovers and people loving the wrong people and things. I wouldn't have been so into it had I not read it. The plot aside, the cast must get a lot of praise. You can see from the DVD cover, the DVD itself came from Amazon and I think it was less than £5 if I'm not mistaken. You can see there it's got quite a strong cast. You've got Imelda Staunton's in it, she's not actually on the front of it, Helena Bonham, Imogen Stubbs, Richard D. Grant. Loads of really well-known names, and that kind of reflects in the talent. The characters, for me, the interpretations were quite true to what was in my head. And that is something I enjoy. While I don't mind interpretations that don't go with my own thoughts, it's always fun when they kind of get it the way you saw it. So that was nice. As a Hellenist, I know a lot of you are fans of Helena Bonham Carter. She was brilliant. She plays Olivia. Needless to say, Olivia is one of my favourite characters in this, and she has some gorgeous costumes. And there's not actually any pictures of my favourite costumes on the back of the DVD, but right now I will put pictures on the screen of a couple of my favourite outfits she had to wear as Olivia, and the pink dress is probably one of my all-time favourite costumes she's ever worn for a film. In some parts of the script, there's focus on certain parts of the script which in my mind were done slightly differently, so it's interesting to see how that's done, but for the most part it's done the way that I saw it. Olivia has some interesting lines, most wonderful lines, if I may. So yeah, in all, it's a very interesting film. And I think I've overused the word interesting in this video, but it's the only way that I can describe this accurately without kind of leaning to one side or the other. As I said, as a film on its own, if I kind of put myself in the perspective of watching it having not read it, I don't think I would have followed it as much, but there are certain scenes which are just really quite fascinating on their own. But if you treat it as an adaptation, having watched it, using it to give you a deeper understanding or an alternative viewing, I guess, it's creative. It works well as an adaptation. You get some adaptations which are just horrendous. I mean, Twelfth Night is not regularly adapted. Things like Hamlet and Macbeth, and they're really the first two that spring to my mind when you think of Shakespeare adaptations, because they're two of the biggest ones that are done. Twelfth Night really isn't. So I mean, credit to that just in general for doing it so well when there's not that many to put it against. But yeah, I did thoroughly enjoy it. It's worth a watch. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. Helena, just let me know what you think of Helena. That is it for this video, so I'll see you all next time. Bye!